think about why you're creating something, because creation itself, the concept of creation, is not always out of being artsy or self-expression. It's dangerous in a way. It brings out something from you that you didn't even know was there, and if you're not ready for that, it can actually mess with you. So I'm going to tell you 3 things that you should know before you create, and it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. So the first thing is for you to be prepared of the outcome. Expect the worst. Expect the worst product, the worst reaction from people, and actually the worst emotional crash out that you'll ever experience in your life. Because most of all are mentally fried all the time, especially if you're an artist. When you try to create something that is pure or comes out from a place of vulnerability and honesty, what comes out first is actually going to be something very chaotic, and it's going to be normal. This is common, but it's chaos, and you'll probably hate it. You'll probably overthink of what you're doing, and then you'll realize that you weren't actually trying to make something good or something that portrays perfectly in the most aesthetically pleasing way what you think or what's going on in your head. You just try to understand yourself, because when you create, it's actually like holding up a mirror in front of you, and sometimes you're not going to like what you see. It has nothing to do with your self-love, self-respect, or confidence. I am very confident in myself, but the art that I sometimes makes me really scared and really like, what am I doing? And it is a mirror. It doesn't have to be figuratively a mirror. What you draw, I draw demons. My demons are not what my thoughts are going on, it's very abstract. The feelings are always going to be abstract and represented in your own aesthetic or your own vibe, but it's never going to be aesthetically pleasing if you're going through things. The second thing is question your intention. Ask yourself, why am I doing this right now? Are you actually inspired, or you're just bored? You're avoiding maybe something, a conversation that you need to have with somebody. Are you avoiding a situation or a thought? Because the reason behind what you make kind of bleeds into the final result. If you're making something just to feel seen, to feel heard, or that you want to express something within you, people can actually sense that and are going to see it. And if you're creating from confusion, from what you don't know that is going on inside of you, you just want to figure it out, it's actually where the best art comes from. And you won't understand it at first, it'll just come out naturally because you're trying to understand yourself. You're going through different levels of thought in your head and stages of figuring things out that you're expressing your creativity through one of the best feelings, which is confusion. Because you have something but you don't quite know how to express it. That is actually the meaning behind thoughts. Sometimes you can't put your feelings and thoughts into words because languages are limiting. So the only way, your only language, is to make art if you're a creative person. So art is going to be your language to understand yourself. And it can be very confusing, but it's okay. It is the way it is. So some ideas, thoughts, and feelings are meant to sit with you before they even make sense. And last, creating is manipulation. Because when you are creating, you're not just expressing yourself, you're guiding people towards a feeling. And it can even be related to yourself and only about yourself. But the way you express it makes people feel a certain way. So every word, every sound, every image, it all shapes the person that is watching the art, listening to the art, or reading the art. It's guiding them through a certain path that is done by you. Even their thoughts, without them even realizing it. They're just trying to feel something, but you're guiding them. You're taking their hand. And that is power, because sometimes we call it self-expression, but it's a way of making other people feel what we feel. Even if we can't put it into words, we put it into art. We're creating a language so people can feel the way we're feeling, so we don't have to be alone in it. And that is kind of terrifying to think about, because art can be both healing and evil. and contagious. It almost feels like you're getting sick. Can you listen to the frogs? They just scream from time to time. So you can actually pass your emotions like a virus to other people. And it can have a good or bad outcome. You can't define that. So yeah, before you create, expect the worst, question your intentions, and remember what you're actually making has a lot of power, even if you don't mean it to. Like me, I didn't mean to draw demons or to be fascinated with these shapes, but it can be quite disturbing to some people, and that is not in my hands. It's the way that I feel. It's the way that I translate my emotions, my obsession, my creativity. But people feel it a different way. And that is powerful. And once you put it out there, you don't have control over it. You just hope they understand how you felt when you made it, when it was all yours. Because your art stops being yours the moment the other people sees it. They make it theirs all the time and they translate it into their own language. Art is a language that's going to mean different things for you, for the artist and for the person that feels the art, basically. And creativity is one of the most important things in life in general because it actually expresses the way that you were raised, state of mind, and the accommodations that your family had, your privileges, and everything. It all shows in your creativity because there's people, there are families that are living in survival mode, so they are only thinking about working. Creativity is actually like a privilege that you can have, and you should consider yourself privileged because there are many people that don't have the time or the time to think about these things. And aside from that, it also shows how much you know your creativity shows how much you read, how much you expose yourself to the outside world and your interactions with people, because there's no better way of learning about life and about the world than learning it from another person. Yes, you have your teachers, your friends, but actually putting yourself out there and talking with strangers can actually bring you a new perspective on life. And if you try to make like a deep conversation with a stranger, there are I can't speak. Interesting things that are going to come out, of the interaction. And to actually be creative is not always to come up with new ideas, actually see these ideas from a different lens. And that's why I believe that kids are the most creative humans in on earth. They are in the best stage of their lives because they are learning basic things and they're actually putting two things together and coming up with something basic but interesting. Like, why can't we fly? It is creative. You are actually joining things from common life and making it something extraordinary. So to come up with ideas and to actually be a creative persona means to know and to explore. So it doesn't have to be something complex to create. There are going to be times where you're going to feel an art block, and it has a lot to do with your emotions, but creativity is also about your emotions. What about a day that you feel sad and you're going to express it in the way that you dress, the way that you put your makeup on, the way that you do your hair? It all expresses the way that you feel. So creativity is beyond creating, it's about being, it's a lifestyle. And last but certainly not least, I want you to understand that you should prioritize your creativity in the world, because what are you doing? What are you doing? Yes, we live in a system, but why don't you try to get off the rails and do something in your spare time more than spending your time on TikTok, on Instagram, on anything? Any short format content is actually taking your energy away. So own your energy. Think about that. What was the last thing that you learned and how does it like impact your life? And how can you join that with another thing? you know Try and come up with new routines, new ways of dressing, Think about what you like, what you truly enjoy from the bottom of your heart, and what you do every day in order to fulfill those areas in your life. If you are a creative person and you're not spending at least 15 minutes a day doing something creative, what are you doing? What are you doing? So take whatever tool you use to create and do it. Do it. Just do it. Life's too short to spend it feeling miserable and just leaving that creativity in the back of your head. The world is made from creative people. So wake up.